Hey there, today we're heading to Hastings for the perfect English seaside day trip, filled with coastal views, history, independent shop, and of course, plenty of good food and coffee along the way. We started the day at London Bridge Station, slightly sleepy but very excited for a day by the coast. Before jumping on the train, I made the essential coffee stop and grabbed an iced latte from Costa Coffee because every train journey is better with caffeine. Then it was time to head toward Hastings. One of my favorite things about train journeys is finally having uninterrupted reading time, so I brought along Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. It felt very fitting reading something space related while speeding through the English countryside, especially after the Artemis mission. The second we arrived in Hastings, we were immediately welcomed by the true owners of the city, the seagulls. From the station, we headed straight towards the beach and started walking along the stones. Hastings doesn't really have a sandy beach, it's more of that classic English pebble coastline, but the sound of the waves hitting the stone is quite relaxing. For our first stop, we made our way to Hastings Pier. It actually has a really interesting history because it originally opened back in 1872 and survived storms, fires, and even partial collapse before being restored. While admiring the sea view, I grabbed a Freddo Espresso, which is the perfect seaside combo. We continued walking along the pier, and even though most of the stores were closed during our visit, you could absolutely tell that this place comes alive in summer with games and food stands everywhere. After that, we walked back towards the beach area where we spotted the Norman boat. It really adds to Hastings' historical atmosphere because this town is forever linked to the Battle of Hastings, even though the actual battle happened just a little outside of the town itself. Along the seafront, there were also lots of activities for children, including a whale and this adorable old mini steam train that looked like something from another era. Eventually, we made our way into Hastings Old Town, which ended up being one of my favorite parts of the day. The whole area feels completely different from modern seaside towns with narrow streets, old buildings, and so much character. Our first stop was the Shipwreck Museum, which is actually packed with artifacts from real shipwrecks found along this coastline. The English Channel can be surprisingly dangerous, and Hastings has a long maritime history because of it. Just a few meters later, we visit the Fisherman's Museum. Hastings still has Europe's largest beach launch fishing fleet, which means fishermen literally launch their boats straight from the shore instead of airborne, and you can still see the fishing boats lined up along the beach today. As we kept walking, we passed in front of the East Hill Cliff Railway, which looks like something straight off a postcard. Fun fact, it's actually the steepest funicular railway in the UK. By that point, we were definitely hungry, so we stopped for lunch at Webbe's Rock-a-Nore and I got fish and chips because it will honestly feel illegal to come to the English seaside and not order fish and chips. Then we continued exploring deeper into the whole town until we reached George Street. This street was such a nice surprise. It's filled with independent shops, antiques, little cafe, and random hidden gems everywhere you look. popped into a few shops along the way, including a chocolate shop where we ended up getting chocolate ice cream, which was very quickly melting thanks to the sea breeze and surprisingly decent weather. After wandering around George Street for a while longer, we eventually arrived at the Western lift. This old-timey lift has been running since the late 1800s and somehow makes you feel like you've stepped into another century. We took the lift all the way up to the hills, and the view from the tops were absolutely worth it. From there, we had a great view of Hastings Castle. Unfortunately, it wasn't open to the public at that time, but even from the outside, it looked incredible. The castle was originally built by William the Conqueror shortly after 1066, so you're basically looking at nearly 1,000 years of history sitting on the cliff edge. The panoramic views over the city and the beach were honestly one of the highlights of the day. You could see the coastline stretching out, the fishing boats below, and the mix of Old Town rooftops meeting the sea. But eventually it was time to head back to London, so we made our way back to the station, slightly tired, slightly windswept, but very happy we decided to do this trip. On the train back, I continued reading Atmosphere while watching the countryside slowly turn golden outside the window. And to end the day perfectly, we were welcomed back to London with a sunset over Tower Bridge, which felt like the most cinematic way possible to finish this Hastings day trip. So that's all about our Hastings adventures. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.